Hi all, welcome to our finale of the Pokemon Labs Premier Challenge. This is going to be the final match of our first Moon Series tournament. It's going to be between oh jeez, my voice is excited too because I couldn't even speak there. It's going to be between Alejandro, Jimenez, and Tricia Solomon. Let's get into it. We got Alejandro with the Incineroar, Lunala, Tapu Koko, Toxicroak, Kyogre, and Ferrothorn. Tricia got Ferrothorn, Groudon, Incineroar, Reshiram, Tapu Fini, and Tapu Lele. We saw Tricia on just a second ago, and Alejandro was on a bit earlier today, so both of these players are no stranger to being on stream. But both of them share very different teams. We see, once again, almost all the Tapus. We have Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini, and Tapu Lele on the field, or on the team sheets here. In addition, we have Incineroar in both places, so that Intimidate pressure going to be at max, as well as Ferrothorn being in both places. Something you wouldn't normally see, but ever since this new format, Ferrothorn has actually seen a new surge of life. Even though it's still good in the Sun Series, this Moon Series has seen it grow in popularity a little bit more and more to make sure that Groudon and Kyogre cannot attack, let alone get a Z-Crystal off. We're going to see that Lunala and Incineroar lead for Alejandro, while Tricia goes for Incineroar, Reshiram. Both of these do very similar things. Fake Out and Tailwind. We're going to see that Turbo Blaze Intimidate come out from Tricia's side first. The speed tier between Lunala and Reshiram can vary, so we don't know for a fact who's going to be fastest. But we do know that Tricia's Incineroar did outspeed Alejandro's. Could be a speed tie. It could mean that Tricia has put a bit of investment into her own Incineroar. Either way, it means we're going to probably see this Fake Out come out if Tricia is faster onto that Incineroar. Though Lunala will get to do what it wants to do, either go for an attack, possibly Z-Crystal, or Tailwind. And there's the Fake Out, which for the second time Tricia outspeeds, there's a good shot at that. We do see that Tailwind. Either way, Lunala was going to be able to get that out. As we see Tricia also go for that Tailwind, so we essentially are on an even playing field. The only thing that really changed from the first round was Alejandro's Incineroar lost a massive 17 HP. Yep. Massive. Or no, it was a 15 HP. Oh. Either way, it's such an important part that I feel like I should mention how much it lost. Okay. I'm just kidding. Here we go. Lunala is gonna protect it. So is Reshiram. So far, this has been pretty much a mirror match. Tricia gonna go for knockoff onto the Lunala, and Alejandro gonna go for U-turn. Finally, some different moves here. Differentiation. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. U-turning out his own Incineroar, allowing him to go into a bit of a better position by going into that Kyogre. Now Kyogre does have that type advantage against Tricia's side. The only thing Alejandro should really watch out for is that Gracium Z. We saw that from Reshiram earlier in the game, and that is a possibility that can remove the Kyogre from Alejandro's side if Tricia isn't careful. Lunala, we also saw, did outspeed when it came to setting up the Tailwind. So there's a possibility Lunala is going to go for that Z-Crystal onto Reshiram. In an attempt to avoid that possible Gracium Z, Alejandro is going to switch to Incineroar, get that Intimidate off onto both of Tricia's Pokemon as she switches out her Incineroar into Groudon. Now the rain is gone in an attempt to save herself from a water attack, but that's not going to matter because the Kyogre is still in Alejandro's back. And we are going to see a Z-Crystal. This one's Gracium Z, meaning it's menacing Moonrace Maelstrom from Alejandro Jimenez. That is going to target, if it targets the Reshiram, then that's going to do a massive amount of damage. If it targets that Groudon, it's still going to do a massive amount of damage. But most likely after seeing what is in play, it's going to target that. There you go. And Reshiram going to have to take on the Queen of the Zubats, Lunala, and its signature attack. Combining those beams into one super powerful attack that is strong enough to get this Reshiram down to red, but not strong enough to knock it out for good. And there is the Z-Crystal from Tricia. It is Gracium Z. If it is going to target that Lunala, that'll be a bit better, since we did see that switch out of Kyogre. into that Incineroar slot. That Bloom Doom. Flowers all over the field. It's Incineroar's worst nightmare. You know it isn't. It's going to be able to take that Bloom Doom relatively nicely with just around 70% of HP remaining. Now with the Incineroar switching as well, Alejandro's going to be able to fake out Tricia's Reshiram, possibly removing it from the game. While Lunala's still at full health, still has an active Shadow Shield, and Groudon on the field is really the only thing that is threatening Alejandro here. Precipice Blades, even with an Intimidate, is going to be able to remove Incineroar at that HP, so he's going to need to switch out to something in order to get a better positioning against the Groudon, and maybe he'll switch into Kyogre, especially if it is Choice Scarf. But you're going to also have to waste that Fake Out, which is actually going onto the Groudon slot. In that case, we do see an attack trying to hit the Reshiram from the Lunala, and the Tailwinds are now gone. So with that now all cleared up, we ended essentially that round the exact same way we started, except Groudon lost, what, 10% of its HP, 5% of its HP, very little amount of its HP. We're going to see that Reshiram switch out, wants to keep it alive for another turn as we see this Incineroar return to the field. Groudon still posing a threat to Alejandro's Incineroar, as this Intimidate comes out and cripples Alejandro's Incineroar. But we're going to see Alejandro switch out his own Incineroar as well, going into Ferrothorn. Not necessarily the best switch in after Tricia went into her own Fire type. This Moongeist Beam going to target this Incineroar, does a little bit of damage as a Precipice Blades comes out from the Groudon. And that is going to not only get Lunala down to 75%, but also to just over half on Ferrothorn, putting it in range where Incineroar can remove it. Lunala now has a bit of an interesting position because it is actually going to be able to take another Groudon hit, but it can't take an Incineroar hit. But if that happens, then the Ferrothorn will survive the attack. So Alejandro has to keep one, or best strategy would be keep one in and try and debate which one's going to get the most use out of staying in, because the other one is very possibly going to be removed. We see the Tailwind from Alejandro's side, meaning that Tailwind is going to make him faster. Precipice Blades coming out, even though it's at -2, it's still going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to be enough to remove Incineroar. If Tricia goes for a knockoff here, then which it is going to happen, this Lunala is going to go down. Even though it was intimidated, it doesn't matter. Tricia has taken the lead of numbers here, as she's got 4 Pokemon to Alejandro's last 2. Also, we know Alejandro has a Kyogre and Ferrothorn as his last 2. Now that Tricia knows that, she can remove both of her Pokemon to get in a better position, or maybe just remove the Groudon to reset the drought. But either way, I do not think that Groudon is going to stay in play here with the Kyogre, putting very, very much pressure onto it. That was not correct grammar, but this match is too exciting that I don't even care. In this case, we don't know if this Kyogre is holding a Choice Scarf. If it is, this is a very easy scenario for Alejandro, as your only option is to go Water Spout and hope for the best. We see this Tapu Lele come out. We know its item is the Weakness Policy. I'm sorry, not Weakness Policy, Adrenaline Orb. It's the other thing that raises the stats. So it looks like Tricia going to sacrifice her 2 Pokemon on the field now, as the Kyogre does go for the Water Spout in the rain at full health. And that does a lot of damage. It definitely does a lot of damage. As both of Tricia's Pokemon go down, you do have that option though, with Groudon in now coming back in play, as well as Incineroar. Tricia can do just enough to remove of both of Alejandro's Pokemon. The only thing I think Tricia will really need to be scared of is if Alejandro's Kyogre is Choice Specs. We saw that really be devastating. Or if this Kyogre, yeah, really, this Kyogre needs to somehow knock out one of Tricia's Pokemon in order to have this match in the bag, because this Groudon is going to put a lot of pressure with Precipice Blades. Incineroar can go for a knockoff on Kyogre, or end up going for the attack on Ferrothorn if they're not confident in the Precipice Blades. And don't forget, both of Tricia's Pokemon are not intimidated anymore, so that Precipice Blades is going to do a bit more. We see that water spout come out in the sun. It doesn't look like it's choice specs, which means that this Precipice Blades is going to connect with both of Alejandro's Pokemon. And without it being intimidated, both of them still survive, as well as we see the berry come out from Ferrothorn. That Figgy Berry gonna get it back up to over... It's over the green health knockoff. We see now that this Kyogre has a Wiki Berry and is able to get rid of the Groudon. And now Alejandro is free to Scald onto Tricia's slot here. It's gonna come down to, really, if this Kyogre has Scald, I think it's game over. If it's not carrying that, if it's carrying Origin Pulse, then Tricia has a shot to survive this turn by going for that knockoff onto Kyogre. And if that is, but they do have the Scald, so that's all hypothetical. That Scald is going to do not enough to remove Incineroar. Oh my gosh, this is a bulky Incineroar. And actually, because we didn't see its berry, it's probably Assault Vested. And because of that, I think Tricia is going to have a better position and win this match if she can survive the Leech Seed. But that Leech Seed is going to take just enough damage off of Incineroar to give Alejandro the win. Oh my gosh. That went back and forth at the very end. I had no clue I was going to take that. But we did get a lot of valuable information. First, we know the item on Kyogre is not a choice item, meaning that it is able to go for Scald, it's able to go for a Water Spout, and whatever other move it has, most likely Thunder. We also know Tricia's Incineroar is Assault Vested, so there's no possible way of it protecting, and it can take a Scald like that. That was impressive. If that still could have been Tricia's game too, if that Leech Seed missed. But oh my gosh, Alejandro deserved that too, don't get me wrong. That was... wow, I don't even know what to say, except let's get into game number 2. Well, we both of them have Ferrothorns here, so in that case, I wouldn't be surprised to see them again, especially with Kyogre and Groudon being so present. Tricia here, and she's able to time that Incineroar right. She can waste that Lunala Z move, essentially, while Alejandro can do the same to her Reshiram if she can time either one of the two on this bottom, the Incineroar or the Ferrothorn, right into the correct slot. Then those Z Crystals might be wasted like they both were in the last round. Oh, I'm sorry, that Moongeist Beam did target the Reshiram. That's another thing we gotta keep in mind from Alejandro. The Reshiram is bulky enough to take a Moongeist Beam from Lunala. So, Alejandro might not want to use the Moongeist Beam onto that Reshiram. As we saw, Tricia came within just a little bit of winning because that Reshiram was able to hang on there. So, Alejandro gonna go for that Lunala Incineroar lead. Same thing. Tricia gonna return the favor here by going for Incineroar and Reshiram once again. So the exact same lead we saw as the last time. Once again, we know that Tricia's Incineroar outspeeds barely. And in that case, we know that she can fake out Alejandro's Incineroar, allowing for a double Tailwind to come out again. Essentially, circling back to where we started, with the only exception of Alejandro losing just a tiny bit of health, like 10 health, very little, and that's not really gonna matter in the end, at the end of the day, when you think about it. As we see that, actually, we see Alejandro going for the fake out onto Tricia's Incineroar and the Tailwind, so Tricia did not opt the fake out. We see the Tailwind from the Lunala on Alejandro's side, and a blue flare coming out onto the Lunala as well. Now, this is where Tricia can use that knowledge that she can survive a Z Menacing Moonraze Maelstrom with her Reshiram to her advantage. She can go for that Tailwind despite a looming Z Crystal. Only thing is, she's going to need to watch out for Alejandro's Incineroar, possibly going to double target onto the Reshiram, but instead she's going to switch out, go for a more slow approach by switching into Ferrothorn. Lunala protecting this turn, does not want to get hit from whatever attack Incineroar has, and Alejandro clicking that U-turn button, realizing that might have been a little too late, as that U-turn is getting that fire type away from that Ferrothorn. And Alejandro going to bring in his own Ferrothorn to counter. And we see the exact same thing happen from Tricia's side, removing that Incineroar, expecting that Lunala to protect, and now switching in to something that's a bit better. We also know that this is going to be the way the turn ends, so Tricia has that advantage knowing whatever she brings in, she'll get to move with. Though Alejandro could switch out, she still now knows he's going to have to waste a turn to switch out. And she goes into Reshiram accordingly, because that not only can set up the Tailwind, it can Blue Flare and remove a Ferrothorn, but Lunala here also, you see there, it's going to be threatened by the combination of attacks from Tricia. If she decides to keep Alejandro's Ferrothorn alive, a double attack onto Lunala will remove it. But Alejandro is going to switch out into Incineroar. That'll cripple with the attack and intimidate the Ferrothorn, and though it will lower Reshiram's attack, it won't vary at all, as we know Reshiram's moves are not physical attacks. We see a Z-Crystal coming out. This is Alejandro's Menacing Lunary's Maelstrom, and now, really, it'll be able to hit on either Pokemon here from Tricia. The Reshiram, we know it's going to take it if it does end up targeting the Reshiram, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrothorn takes it either, but that's not going to be something we're going to see, as Reshiram once again gets Menacing Moonrays Maelstrom. That's fun to say. And now, unless the critical hit happens, it looks like this Reshiram is going to get crippled down to red health, but we'll take it. It could also be a low damage roll we saw at the end of the last turn. Oh, as that Reshiram goes down, it is a critical hit! It is a critical hit! It actually happened! And I'm sorry if I jinxed it, Tricia, but that is the way the game plays as the Leech Seed comes out onto the Lunala. And that puts the game back into Alejandro's hands. He did win the last round. If he wins this one, he's got this in the bag. He's going to take the championship for the day, win our first Moon Series Premier Challenge, but now he's going to have to go through this Groudon. And though Alejandro does have the advantage with the Tailwind, this Groudon might be able to outspeed Incineroar, and Groudon is known, especially without Intimidate, to knock out Incineroars. And the Incineroar essentially needs to switch out from Alejandro's side. Lunala will probably go down to a Precipice Blades. Tricia here needs to think about the best way to get this Groudon to attack as best as possible. And the best way in this case is going to be switching out that Ferrothorn into her own Incineroar. Getting the Intimidate on Alejandro's Incineroar, possibly crippling it if it decides to attack either one of Tricia's side, and Tricia is going to protect the Groudon this turn. We also know that because Incineroar is protected, Incineroar has that Fake Out turn wasted, and we see the Moongeist Beam going on to Groudon once again. Now we see the Leech Seed taking some health from Lunala, giving it to Incineroar on Tricia's side, and now, even though the Tailwind is up, Tricia is still in a decent position. If she can outspeed the opposing Incineroar, then that Precipice Blades is going to knock out both of them, assuming Alejandro does not switch. But we are going to see the swap out of his Incineroar going into Ferrothorn. A Precipice Blades will do just under half health here. At full health, Lunala gets that Tailwind back up. And there's the Precipice Blades. And Ferrothorn's gonna miss it! Just to add to the bad luck from Tricia here. It will go ahead and remove the Lunala, but now Alejandro has the option to either bring in possibly Kyogre if he's carrying in the back. We know he's got Incineroar, Lunala, and Ferrothorn. We don't know the fourth Pokemon. So that's a possible option for Alejandro, but if he brings back that Incineroar, he still can get an Intimidate on Groudon, and Incineroar at full health will take a hit from Groudon. We're going to see that Ferrothorn return from Tricia's side. And do not forget that Tricia has not used her Z-Crystal yet. If she can time it right, this Reshiram, we know it's in the back with Grassy and Z. It will be able to hit this Kyogre pretty strongly if expected. If it hits it like it's expected to. But then the only way to really safely hit is to remove one of the two Pokemon that from Alejandro's side to single out Kyogre. That's the only way, I think, that Tricia's going to be able to get that Grassy MZ out. Now, Kyogre is in a tough position. We're going to see Alejandro go for that swap out back into Incineroar and puts Fake Out and Intimidate pressure back on the field. But Kyogre is not going to be able to remove a Ferrothorn here without it doing a massive amount of damage. Groudon going to protect. Kyogre's next. It's going to go for that Water Spout. It's not Choice Specs. We saw it was a berry, so it is going to do a pretty good amount, but still not 50%. And if this Power Whip hits, then this Kyogre is at risk of going down. And the Kyogre is bulky enough to take it. It doesn't actually, I don't believe it is going to activate its berry. It does not activate the berry, which means Kyogre here going to survive with 60 HP. Can't Water Spout, but it can get essentially a free Scald onto the right slide. We know Tricia has that Reshiram, so switching to Reshiram would be a decent scenario here, but you gotta count on surviving a Scald from this Kyogre, and it looks like that's what Tricia's gonna do here. Oh, we see it actually switch out into Incineroar. I'm sorry, my mind is not working properly today, but I've been like intimidated or something because or confused. At least I'm not punching myself in the face. We have Incineroar as the last slot. It's not Reshiram. Reshiram got knocked out with the critical hit. The Scald going onto the Incineroar slot in the rain is going to remove that Incineroar. And now Tricia is in a decent position. We do have that Ferrothorn sitting there, gaining health with the leftovers. And now with the Groudon coming out, there's a possibility that you can just click Precipice Blades and move of it. This move of both of Alejandro's Pokemon here. We know that he has one more in the back, his own Ferrothorn, so that'll really be the switch in he's going to need to make to survive a Precipice Blades here. But who does he switch into? The Kyogre obviously is going to need to survive. But with Lunala gone and the Tailwind ending soon, if Tricia's Groudon outspeeds the Kyogre, then it is a possibility that Tricia can sweep this the rest of the way with just Groudon. And then she has the added boost of Ferrothorn, which can remove Kyogre as long as Incineroar has gone down. So now we're going to see that Kyogre switch out, which was really the play we were all expecting. But what is Tricia going to do? Is she going to go for that Precipice Blades? We're going to see a Protect attempt there from that Ferrothorn. Because of that Tailwind, Groudon is going to have to try and sweep this alone. So here we go. This is the Precipice Blades we've all been waiting for. And it's going to miss Incineroar and Ferrothorn! That was exactly the opposite of what needed to happen. Essentially, Tricia would have been able to remove the Incineroar, but needed a crit on Ferrothorn. So literally, that is the opposite of what needed to happen. Now at this point, Tricia's best strategy would be stall out the Tailwind. And in that case, you need to really protect on this turn. Ferrothorn going to protect. No switch outs yet, which is interesting. Groudon actually Precipice Blades faster, so the Tailwind might have run out. And oh my gosh, this is depressing now. That's a third Precipice miss in a row for Tricia. Alejandro going to be able to get into that Kyogre. And, well, it's looking good for Alejandro, unless Tricia's able to go for that Precipice Blades and it actually hits for once, and then critical hits on Ferrothorn. Then there's the shot of it doing good. But other than that, Tricia's in a really tough spot. But it's not too late to counter her out. You can't, yeah. We're going to see Kyogre go for the Protect. Ferrothorn's going to stay in play. There's the Precipice Blades. I really hope this doesn't miss. Thank you. Finally, RNG has blessed us with a Precipice Blades hit. And Power Whip misses this time in a role reversal here. Yeah. There is, now, in this case, the rain might... It's got 3 turns left, so the rain's going to definitely play into effect here. Tricia, I think, needs to hope that... Tricia really needs to hope that this Precipice Blades hits. And actually, with Alejandro switching out, there's a possibility this Precipice Blades, if it hits both, can remove a both. Because this Groudon, it is at -1. That is going to get rid of both of Alejandro's. This game is going to come down to the battle of the Hoenn Legendaries. We have Groudon and Kyogre. It actually is going to come down to who's going to be able to outspeed, I think. That'll be the deciding factor. It's also going to come down to if moves can miss or not. Tricia showed that she does have Protect on Groudon. Maybe she's going to go for that double Protect. That is a possibility and would be the only way to stall out the rain. The Scald, Tricia going to try and take it, but it's not going to happen as Alejandro Jimenez is going to take the first Moon Series Premier Challenge. That was an intense ending to a very intense match where, you know, in that case, I said it earlier, but I went back and forth, where it's hard to keep track. But in the end, Alejandro is able to keep his head in the game. And this adorable Pikachu is here to give me a hug. Thank you, Pikachu. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you at the next tournament because Pikachu wants it. See you later.